Hey, it's Paul Scheer. You're watching Couch Surfing, which is a show I love even when I'm not on it. Take, for example, the Kate Mulgrew episode. I loved it.
Welcome to Couch Surfing, the show where giant guests look back at their big roles, their little roles, and everything in between. I'm social distancing with Paul Scheer. Paul, how are you holding up?
I'm doing good. I'm sad not to be on a couch with you, but we are in our own separate... we're not even in couches. It seems like you're in a chair. I'm in a chair.
I am in a swivel chair.
Me too.
And I'm eager to surf with you. You ready to do this?
Let's go.
All right.
You in the vehicle. This is the Air Patrol.
This is like one of my favorite things I've ever gotten to do. We basically got to make a full-on sketch show where people really supported our ideas, except for this sketch. So this sketch is called Hot Air Balloon Cops. We fought for this sketch so hard, and then it became like a logistical nightmare to even shoot it. But we were so stubborn. We were like, we are definitely doing this dumb sketch. You don't even know. We need to make a statement here.
Have you thought about a giant reunion?
I think I'm just a big believer in keeping things short and sweet. I would love to do something with Human Giant, but I also kind of feel like once it's over, move away and do something else. It allows you to expand, because a lot of the times when you see these like reunions or like these, hey, it's been 20 years, let's get them back together. It's not fulfilling, and sometimes it's sad. So I want to avoid that. I want to avoid making people feel sad.
Up next.
Hey guys, check it out.
It's so kind of fun to look back at these shows. I haven't watched this stuff in such a long time. This is, of course, The League. A show that I did about fantasy football on FX. Right. We'd have an outline, like a 12-page outline of what the show would be, and then we'd kind of improvise our dialogue around it. But that scene, in particular, was a crazy one, because we had a live monkey in a very small Mercedes, and the trainer was in the trunk. And so he's like, I'm here in case the monkey goes crazy. Right? But wait, if it goes crazy, you're in the trunk. What are you going to do? Then he's like, well, give him these little Sour Patch Kids. I was like, I don't want to give this monkey something that looks like a smaller version of me, because I'm treating him, giving him the wrong information. And then they get so mad at you. They always get mad at you. They're like, why are you not doing it the right way? I'm like, I'm hitting my mark. The monkey is not.
I have one quick question though. Have you ever tried 3 penis wine?
No, I don't want to drink any 3 penis anything basting in 3 penises. Not because of anything more than I don't feel like that's the right part of the animal to be eating.
Let's move on, shall we?
Sure.
The mother that we met, the creepy mom. Yeah.
This is actually a beautifully animated piece from How Did This Get Made? How Did This Get Made is a podcast I do with Jason Mantzoukas and my wife, June Diane Rayfield.
Now, this podcast is a love letter to the ambitious failures of Hollywood.
I love it. It makes it sound classy instead of this is a podcast where we rip on terrible movies. But yes, I'm going to take your definition of it over mine.
Do you have a dream guest?
Honestly, to me, the best guests are the people who come to us. And one of those people was Charlize Theron. She loves the podcast. And she's like, I want to do the podcast. And we're like, really? She's like, oh, yeah, I listened to it. James Franco didn't even know we had a podcast, made a movie about The Room, and then listened to our episode about The Room, which was actually used as research for the movie that he directed. He didn't even know that like a big chunk of what Newstetter and Weber did when they were writing the script was listen to our episode, because we actually had one of the actors on our podcast, Greg Sestero, before he wrote the book. So he gave some pieces of information that weren't in his book. So it's kind of this funny thing that people find, because now everyone has a podcast. I never advertise that we have a podcast, so I kind of wait until people come to us.
You don't work it into conversation?
I know, because now I feel like everyone has it. It's almost saying like, hey, guess what? I have a wallet.
Welcome back to Couch Surfing. I'm still here with Paul Scheer. Paul, you want to continue?
I do, and I want to get this remote and give it to my mom, because this would be the perfect television show for her, just to pull on things that I'm on.
All right, let's do it.
So it's true.
This is an Adult Swim show that I created, and I love kind of getting my hands in all sides of stuff, like as an actor, as a writer, as a producer, and even as a director on this show. And we had Academy Award winners on the show. Brie Larson was on this show. J.K. Simmons was on this show. As you see, Bob Odenkirk. It's really like a who's who.
You had Kate Mulgrew on the show.
Kate Mulgrew is one of the leads of the show. She was absolutely fantastic. I mean, we only stopped doing the show because people got so damn successful. Like, Karen got Guardians of the Galaxy. Martin got Silicon Valley. Kate was doing Orange is the New Black. We were just losing out on people. And for me, I didn't want to just keep on doing the show and replenishing our main cast, because I thought the main cast is what kind of was the glue that held it all together.
Up next.
Yes, what do we have? Ving and I were in this movie, Piranha 3D, which is actually kind of fun and funny and big and bold. And the movie is so successful that they wanted to do a sequel. And what they did was not bring back any of the people involved in the original film. Not the director, not the writer, not the producer. They just made a purely new film. And one of the only two people that didn't die in the film, well, I guess, honestly, we both did die, but they brought us back. They ran out of money.
I was going to ask you. Okay, yeah. Your character wasn't supposed to make it out of the first one alive.
No. They
and you
ran out of money.
And you shot a death scene, right?
Yes. If you have the DVD, you can see my death scene. They ran out of money. But the number one question I had to always answer was like, well, what happened to your character? You were one of the main characters in this movie, and you just disappear. I guess you can do that in horror. But and then we came back. We're oddly friends. We shot this for one day in a theme park in North Carolina. And I just remember Ving Rhames grabbing me by the chest and telling me, he was like, because they asked me to do my own stunt, and he just looked at me in the eyes like, never do your own stunts. And he was right, because they wanted me to like do a flip over like a metal bar. He's like, never. And I was like, great. They were firing cannons of fish at us, and he's like, run, hide, don't get anywhere near these fish. And they're like, these fish are going to be fine. They're not going to be. We're throwing them out at a very small degree. They launched these fish cannons. A fish flew over the theme park into the parking lot, and they wanted us to stand in front of those cannons. Ving Rhames literally saved my life.
Let's keep surfing.
All right.
Everything's falling into place.
Great, let's get to it.
This is an example of me trying to get on the show with all of my might. I love Mike Scheer. He did Parks and Rec, obviously was a very influential voice on The Office, the American version. And I fell in love with the show when I saw it. I hated the posters. And I was like, what is this show? This looks dumb to me. And then I finally, even though I loved all the people involved, and then I finally watched it and I was like, this is the perfect show. It's beautiful. It's hopeful. It's dealing with something that I've never really seen dealt with on TV. And I just proceeded to wage a campaign of telling everyone I knew, I want to be on the show. I just want to be on the show. Please get me on this show. You know, I got lucky on this one. And Mike wrote this part, and I think he didn't have anyone else in mind except for me. And it was really funny because two of my friends were like, oh, you know, I read the script and I went up to Mike and I was like, you know, you should play this. Paul should play this part. And he's like, yeah, he is. And people didn't know. So I love that people were like fighting for me to play a part that Mike already had cast me in.
All right, up next.
Well, either way,
yes, Black Monday. What I love about Black Monday is it is a show that really is able to mix like some real dramatic stuff with some really funny comedy. And in that episode, it's one of my favorite ones that we've done this season. We are in a bottle episode. So a bottle episode is one of the episodes where you're just kind of trapped in one location for the entire episode. And this takes place in a bank, and the episode turns into a super violent Michael Mann gunfight. We had 200 special effects shots in this episode, which is just insane for our show, which is mostly dialogue based and around an office.
It's probably about 70% comedy, 30% drama, and it's all 80s.
Absolutely.
Why do you think Hollywood loves this decade?
The 80s is a fun backdrop because right now I think everyone is very, and rightly so, aware of what they're saying and aware that there are differences. But back then in the 80s, no one had that filter or even that knowledge that anything that they were doing or saying is wrong. You know,
I'd rather think about you rollerblading in short shorts.
I mean,
that's
look,
what I want to think about. That's what I want to think about.
I worked my ass off to do that. So
you look good.
So starting in like June or July, we started shooting the show in September. I went on a diet. I started working out every day, sometimes twice a day, and trying to make sure that I had a body that looked the right way. I wanted to be tan. I wanted to be in fit and shape. And look, there's no downside to that, too.
What'd your lady think of that?
She liked everything but the mustache that I had to keep for the 12 weeks of shooting. I have a pretty intense Tom Selleck mustache, but I did come home one day because I had forgotten my wallet at the house. And I came home in those short shorts and my crop mesh tank top. And I walked into the bedroom and June was just like, out. No. I don't want this. Get out of here. No. Did not like seeing me fully keithed out.
Paul, thank you so much for surfing by. Thank you.
This was
Stay
so
safe.
much fun. And look, I'm a fan of the show. I'll tell you that again. A huge fan of the show. What I do love about this show, and I'll say this honestly, it's so fun to look back and see all the stuff that you forget about. So I appreciate it.
Oh, happy to be of service. Black Monday airs Sundays on Showtime. Check it out. Bye.